Okay, we are live. What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday, July 26th. We are moving right along. All 32 teams in the NFL report to training camp. As I think tomorrow is like when camp starts, but the report date for all 32 was today. Today was the final day, or the final day for everyone to check off all 32 teams that everyone is there. So that is great news, and we are going to start football. It's that time of season. Sorry, baseball. We're going to get to baseball. We're going to talk some baseball before we conclude tonight's show. But there is newsworthy stuff to talk about in the NFL. Some news in the last half hour. A new receiver Tom Brady has in Tampa. But we don't have to start there. But we can certainly work it in. Brendan Glasheen with two guys that are jacks of all trades at DraftKings in the work they do and other outlets as well. Matt LaMarca. And LaMarca, are you considered a DraftKings sports special? Are you a specialist, content specialist?
Yeah, content specialist. That sounds good.
Everyone wants that title. It's a good title.
I just can't, I go on Twitter and I'm like, okay, what do they call themselves? And Meiselman is a DraftKings sportsbook content specialist. So I was like, oh, what's LaMarca? I know he works at DraftKings.
Call me whatever you want. I really don't care.
I just kind of like saying it. Meiselman knows. I like saying DraftKings content specialist. I just think that's really cool. Makes you sound really cool. So we'll ride with that. Okay. Where do we want to start in the NFL? We've got news today. Kyle Shanahan has said today that it's Trey Lance's team in San Francisco. So that confirms that Garoppolo will be moved at some point. What else we have? Kyler Murray's contract, the study hour jokes. Those have already started. Those are funny. So that's in the same division. What else we got? Lamar Jackson. Is he going to get paid a crap ton of money now because of Kyler Murray? And then other quarterbacks down the line too. Joe Burrow will be due for an extension. He's getting his appendix out, which that is, I know it's not, my younger brother, he teaches anatomy in high school and he's like, look, man, it's not a big deal. Like he'll be fine. I'm like, I know it's not a huge deal, but it's the Bengals. Like it's something to mess up the timeline. And then we got Julio Jones.
Fall last year.
Yeah. So, and Big Ben Roethlisberger had this procedure done at one point in his career, and he actually missed week 1. So he got it done in the same window of time, end of summer or, end of July, early training camp, and it delayed his start to the season. And then Julio Jones just signed a 1-year deal with the Bucs. What's your leadoff thought, LaMarca? It feels like you have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is interesting. I think for me personally, the most interesting one is Trey Lance for the 49ers. We kind of were all expecting that this was going to happen, but all Jimmy Garoppolo has done for the most part in his career with the 49ers is win football games. So they've won not necessarily because of him, but he has, had some really, efficient games for them. And the 1 year that he was hurt was the year that everything kind of went to hell for the 49ers. So right now you can get the under on 10 wins for San Francisco at -120. And that is a number that I am certainly interested in. I think there's a chance that Trey Lance is good, but certainly nothing that we saw last year inspires a ton of confidence. He's obviously a very good athlete. He's going to bring excellent rushing numbers to the position, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to make them a better team than they were last year. So they might be a better fantasy team. Like I would rather have Trey Lance as my fantasy quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't know if it's going to be a plus for the team overall. So I am taking the under 10 wins for the 49ers.
Love it. So you go against Jeff Ulrich because Jeff and I have talked about this a few times the last couple of weeks, and I'm kind of with you on this. Like Jimmy Garoppolo has his faults. He makes timely bad decisions. There's an oxymoron for you. He makes very bad decisions at timely opportunities for him. But he does win football games. And for Kyle Shanahan, and Bill Belichick's kind of done this with Mac Jones this year, but Trey Lance has not started a number of games where you feel really good about it, but he hasn't started a full season. But it feels like, Meiselman, they're putting a lot on Trey Lance with a quote like that today. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we all have been, right? Like Trey Lance has been getting hyped up either as a fantasy quarterback or as a real quarterback since the beginning of last season, really. I mean, I remember one of the like most memorable moments of DFS for me last year was week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo was my favorite quarterback, and then Trey Lance scored the 49ers' first touchdown of the season. He vultured one at the goal line and ran it in. So like
the quarterback vulture. You don't see it often.
No, you definitely don't. It was Taysom Hill-esque. But yeah, I guess like this has been a thing people have been talking about for a long time. So it's not like Trey Lance just showed up out of nowhere. Like I don't really have a ton to add here. Like I don't have any sort of expertise in how good he is, but
what about a betting angle?
The hype is high. Well, just to quickly tease something, I don't think that Julio Jones is the most relevant player named Julio for futures betting today. I think there's a different Julio that we need to talk about for a different sport, which we will get to. Betting angle that I'm interested in, though, is the Bengals week 1 line is off the board right now. Joe Burrow's season props are not. And could that have something to do with the Steelers, or is this a mistake that maybe there is a concern for Burrow in week 1 and we should be hammering the under on his season bets?
Okay, I like this.
There.
Well, I don't like it for Joe Burrow's sake, but sure. I like that what I brought up is you think there's substance to that. You think the fact that Burrow is getting this procedure done. My question is, and I'm no doctor, but why are they doing this now? Why would this not have been taken care of before training camp?
I guess, did they just find out about it now? Like
possibly
these things just pop up, randomly.
This is true. But
I also don't have any insight really. Like I've been following the Steelers quarterback situation. Like, could the line just be down because we don't know who their week 1 quarterback will be? Or is this about Burrow?
Well, you did say, wasn't it up before? Did we hope?
I'm not sure, but I know Burrow's season props are up. So I don't know. I have to imagine the Bengals line probably, like, all the other games have lines available, and there's quarterback uncertainty on other teams. Like the Browns have a line. We don't know exactly what their situation is.
So just to catch people up, if they missed this from Ian Rappaport, it was earlier this afternoon. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow is undergoing surgery to remove his appendix, source said. He'll miss some practice time, but better now than later. Is that Rappaport throwing spin on that, or is that someone like in the Bengals organization go, hey, better now than later. It's all good here in Bengal land. We were in the Super Bowl last year, so hey, he'll be all right if he's going to miss week 1. Or just practice time. I don't know. I'd be concerned.
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit concerning. If you look right now, the number I'm seeing is 4,450 for Burrow for the year. He had 4,600 last year, and he missed 1 game. But he also went like Super Saiyan down the stretch, and he had those 2 games where he racked up like 500 plus in back-to-back starts, basically. So if you do take the under on this line and he misses week 1, you're basically at a wiggle room there. Like that. A lot of the reason why these numbers look so appealing is because like they have to set them as if the quarterbacks are going to play 16, 17 games. Right. So, but we know that that's not how it works in the NFL. There are injuries, players get hurt. So that's why betting the under on these is always more appealing to me than taking the over. So this Burrow uncertainty to start the year just makes an under even slightly more appealing for him.
Yeah, and I think there's this idea that like Burrow has to get better because of his age. And while I would agree he probably will be better this year, that doesn't mean he throws for more yards and touchdowns. He just might be more efficient. The Bengals could have more leads, and they don't need to pass as much. A lot of why Burrow had to throw so much last year was he'd have games where he'd throw a pick 6 or get his team down early, and then he'd have to come back. If he's better this year, he might actually throw for less yards. Like Aaron Rodgers never has to throw for high yardage totals because he doesn't really turn the ball over. They have a good defense. So your defense being better is also going to bring the yardage down. To me, this seems like an absolute slam dunk of a bet, both on the yards and the touchdowns for the under if he misses week 1.
How about...
we don't know yet.
So for comparison, I saw this on Twitter today as well, and I thought it was a nice way to compare it. I brought up Big Ben when we opened the show. Ben Roethlisberger had his appendix removed in 2006. He missed the Steelers opener.
Time ago. It's just a long time ago. I thought you were talking about older Ben Roethlisberger. That's so... He might have been Joe Burrow's age
this
at that point.
this kind of fits the argument because it wasn't as fat and out of shape, Big Ben, not as fat and out of shape, and he was still younger in that sense, right? He threw.
Yeah, it makes it more relevant than if it were more recently, even though it's been a lot of time. Yeah, 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger doesn't come back from anything that quickly.
Right. And it's like, all right, maybe if he stunk, was it really the appendix or was it everything else about him?
Right.
But that season threw a career high 23 interceptions.
Interesting. Maybe missing training camp is relevant, right? Like not getting those reps, if nothing else, could be, that could be a slight cause for concern. Like I'm not saying bet the under now. I'm saying be very cautious if you like the over. Like
interception.
I'd be staying away right now.
Interception number for Burrow. He threw 14 last year. Number is at 12.5.
That was interesting. Burrow, the thing you have to remember too is Joe Burrow took a beating last year, right? He was sacked 51 times. I believe that was the most in the league.
Did they beat the Titans in the playoffs with him getting sacked 9 times? That's
correct.
Remembering that right? Yeah.
Yep. One of the weirdest playoff games of all time because just neither team wanted to was trying to take it. So, you have to keep that in mind as far as injuries and turnovers and stuff too. Like, I haven't dug into how much work the Bengals have done on their offensive line. I have to imagine they did something, but, still, this is a guy who has taken a beating in his short NFL career.
Just to clarify, to be fair, so we're about fairness on these shows. Ben Roethlisberger hurt that appendix early September, so it was closer to week 1, so that's why he missed week 1. But once it was eventually recovered, and I'm trying to find. I should go to his Pro Football Reference page, but how many games did he play in to throw that many interceptions? And he was already kind of suspect to interceptions anyway, to be fair, right? So. We'll get that in a minute, but yeah, I think that's something to keep an eye on for sure, right? Because didn't he miss? Burrow did not play all of 2020, his rookie season. He only played a handful of games.
Right, he tore his ACL behind that.
He won comeback player of the year the following season, so he had to miss a decent amount of time.
2006, Big Ben only missed 1 start, but he was
he was a tough MF, man. He was real tough. That guy.
That too.
Joe Burrow's tough too, but Ben Roethlisberger is kind of a different thing.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, we can't get Joe Burrow in trouble for something that he's not, and he has proven, like LaMarcus said, he's taken beatings and he gets right back up, and he got that team to a Super Bowl. So much respect. But yes, that was a career high 23 picks. See, and by the way, year 3 of Big Ben in the NFL. Joe Burrow, year 3 in the NFL coming up. So. Just something to think about, and I think LaMarcus on it. If you have the desire, the comfort level to go to unders, despite the fact we are in an offensive league and all these lists that are coming out, ESPN's had it, Pro Football Talk's had it, ranking the quarterbacks thanks to 50 GMs, execs across the league. Joe Burrow is appearing in the top 5, top 6.
That whole thing is ridiculous.
I know, but I'm saying the confidence level the league has in him is all. Say it again.
Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. Like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady, that's your top tier. End of story. I don't want to hear any other name in there. No discussion.
LaMarca, come on. It's list season. Trying to tell
fine.
people.
Make your lists. Just make them better.
That's
okay,
fair.
but Burrow being up there is fair.
Yeah, he could be in the next tier if you want to put him with Herbert.
I just mentioned where Burrow is. There's Desmond.
I didn't say it was your fault. I just, you brought it up and it got me angry.
I didn't bring up the other part of the list because I agree. I think it's crap, but Burrow probably a little high, but he's in that mix. That shows the confidence the league has in him.
Gotcha.
Okay.
We should talk about Julio Jones too.
Oh, that's right. To Tampa.
Yes. I don't know entirely how relevant Julio is at this point in his career. He's coming off of a terrible year with the Titans. He had 31 catches, 434 yards, 1 touchdown, all career lows. He only played in 10 games, but I do think it's fair to point out that Tennessee passing attack last year was atrocious. It was basically just feed the ball to AJ Brown, and that was it. Nobody else did anything. So if you look at a lot of his like metrics, yards per target, catch percentage, like a lot of that stuff is kind of similar to his numbers from when he was playing in Atlanta. So I do think that there's at least a chance that he's not done. And the Bucs certainly have some targets available with Antonio Brown gone and with Gronkowski gone, at least for the time being. And they did bring in Russell Gage, who will offset some of them. But this comes down to whether or not Julio Jones is done or not. And I think if the overwhelming majority of people think, yes, Julio is done, I will be on the other side and I'll be happy to take some arbitrage shots at him. But if the narrative is that, oh, Julio's going to be playing with Tom Brady and everything's going to be great, then I'm fine with fading him too. So it's really going to come down to how the fantasy community, how the sports betting community reacts to this news. The real winner, of course, is Tom Brady, right? I mean, the guy, just another weapon for him to lean on.
150-1, Julio Jones to lead the league in receiving.
And yeah, no interest in that. But he could be, like, would it shock you if he ended up being their number 3 wide receiver
behind Evans and Godwin? No.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. And Antonio Brown had fantasy value in that role, right? He was, a weekly wide receiver 3 type player in fantasy leagues. So, we'll see what like his ADP looks like. I know we don't talk about like redraft stuff a lot here, but his week 1 DFS salary, right? If he's priced at the minimum, but if there's a chance that he's going to be running with Tampa's first team offense, that's intriguing to me.
No lines out on Julio Jones yet on receiving touchdowns for player totals, just like we were doing with Burrow. Player receptions, receiving touchdowns, receiving yards, nothing there for Julio Jones. You have a thought, Meiselman, on what this might mean for the Tampa offense?
I mean, I don't have a lot to add. Like, if he's healthy, okay, it's exciting. If he's not healthy, then who cares? Like, I think you guys have done well enough covering this. Like, I just don't have much. I don't have much more to throw in. So I'm ready for baseball because I think I can segue there with Julio Rodriguez from Julio Jones, unless you have more to go here.
How the hell are you going to bet Julio Rodriguez to win Rookie of the Year?
No. I'm going against him now.
Oh.
So, okay. So Julio Rodriguez, I think he's missed the last 4 games.
Can I just add real quick, Lamarca? That was really well done by Meiselman to say, okay, shut the hell up. You got your news out that you wanted to talk about in the NFL.
He said he had a futures bet involving a Julio that wasn't Julio Jones. So it's a perfect segue.
It was good. It was very well done.
I learned a lot from you guys here, and I have nothing else to add.
All right.
I'm just ready for my weird
baseball. All right. I'm done interrupting you. Here we go.
Okay. American League Rookie of the Year. Here we go. Julio Rodriguez was out for 4 days with a wrist injury, which I think he hurt in the home run derby, which is a whole other thing we could get into of like, how does that even happen? But Jeremy Pena has been on fire lately, and the Astros just swept the Mariners in a 3-game series in Seattle. And right now, Pena is plus 650 to win Rookie of the Year. These two players have the same WAR at 2.9. I think Rodriguez, he does have the edge right now. I think narrative is kind of fueling him because he's been like everyone's guy for the whole year. And he's doing better in counting stats. Like, a lot of Pena's value comes from the fact that he's a shortstop and one of the best defensive shortstops in the MLB already. But Pena also has the thing going for him that he's playing on a team in the same division as Julio Rodriguez, but he's way ahead in the standings. So his team is a lot better. All this to me adds up to something like it should be like 2-1 that Rodriguez wins, not 4, 5, or 6-1. And I think Pena's line should realistically be like plus 200 or 300. Bobby Witt has also missed a handful of games since the All-Star break. So he's falling back pretty far. He hurt himself I think it was on Saturday, and he's still out of the lineup again tonight. So this is turning into a 2-man race. And I think it's a lot closer than these odds indicate. We'll see what happens going forward. I mean, I think these are both really good players, and they both are very worthy of being up there. Like, in any other season, I think it would be a landslide victory for either of them. Like, these are two of the best rookie seasons that we've seen in recent memory, but Pena is closing the gap. And if he outperforms Rodriguez from this point forward, like, I don't know, are we going to remember the home run derby that Rodriguez didn't even win when we get down to October?
No, everyone's going to remember Soto and his story, how he had to fly commercial. He wants out. declines 40 million. That's the story. The guy who the runner-up, no one remembers that.
Right.
The only runner-ups you remember are guys like Ohtani, who got beat by Soto in the first round. Like, that was a story because Ohtani stunk. That was why it was relevant.
Right. So maybe more of what I'm asking is, are we going to remember the Mariners 11-game winning streak in July when we get to the end of the season?
No.
But
and
Buchanan will tell you they'll win 10 more in August in a row.
Well, if they do, then we can bet Rodriguez then, because the odds I think are going to come down pretty far over the next couple of days.
Do you guys see Steve in LA, by the way, with Robert Flores? He's doubled down on his Seattle Mariners love. He said that they're the team of destiny.
They're okay. I mean, whatever. They're fine. They're decent.
The Mariners had like a negative 50 run differential last year and still managed to be in contention. So I won't put anything past them.
The most undeserving Cy Young winner in the history of baseball.
Steve apparently has some weird voodoo magic that I'm just not willing to mess with.
Only Garrett.
I will say that Bobby Witt Jr., who got off to like a really rough start this year, a lot of people kind of stopped paying attention because he was so bad in March and April, but he's been really good the last few months. And I think if he can return from this injury relatively soon, I think that he could potentially make this a 3-horse race.
Yeah, it's just he's missing his 3rd game in a row tonight with a hamstring issue. This seems like the kind of thing where they're just going to put him on the IL because it's the Royals. Like, what are they playing for? This is the future of the team. So yes, if he comes back, like, I agree with you. It's just Pena has benefited from the fact that the 1st and 3rd guys in the odds both got injured at the same time. So I just think the numbers are off. Yeah, Witt's not totally out of it yet. It's just like the odds are going to shift. And I think by next week, Witt might be 20-1. And then at that point, I'm interested for sure. Then it would probably be too long.
Julio Rodriguez is in the lineup tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, he's returning tonight, so it's a little less exciting, but the fact that he missed 4 games and then also the fact that 3 of them were against the Astros, where Pena, I think, homered in every game of the series, at least 2 of them. So I think, like, if there's a narrative building I think there's going to be a little bit of a narrative building around Pena that, like, his team's better. They've been great against the Mariners head to head. Pena's been, like, specifically good in those games.
They're really good. They're a really good baseball team. They kind of, they lost Carlos Correa and
they don't even care, right? It doesn't even matter.
So.
Well, and to both of your points, there's in LaMarca, you know what? Everyone's what's the word I'm looking for? Everyone is being overshadowed. The Yankees have been the Yankees and the Mets are playing this weekend. Everyone's talking about the Yankees and how special they've been. The Astros are only a win behind the Yankees for the most in Major League Baseball.
And Giancarlo Stanton just went on the IL a couple hours ago. So, like, yeah.
And Michael King blew up his elbow, right? And Chapman is not the same guy that he used to be. That's my left-handed pitcher. I was going left-handed there.
Yeah.
So the Yankees have more question marks right now than they've had at any point in the year.
Yeah. The Yankees are still going to win their division. I mean, they're up 12.5 games.
By a lot, yes.
But as far as the best record in the AL, it could definitely wind up being the Astros. The AL Central is too far back, but the Astros could certainly overtake them, and that would definitely add to Pena's case.
That was what I was getting at.
I do think Judge is still going to win AL MVP now, though, even if the Yankees don't have the best record. Like, if there's another future, I think we talked about this last week. Judge was like plus 150. Now he's favored.
No. Well, he was favored right before the break.
Last week we were saying Ohtani, if he stays healthy, is going to win. Now it's pretty much a coin flip between those two players.
You're saying Ohtani's now favored.
The odds flipped twice.
Yes.
We had Judge minus 110 with Ohtani plus 150 2 weeks ago. And then we had Ohtani minus 110 with Judge plus 150 1 week ago. And now we've got it basically right there next to each other. I think Judge has a pretty distinct advantage right now.
Well, and to your point, you brought this up to both of us last week on the Angels, because, we did the show last Tuesday, and it was the All-Star game. If the Angels are out of it, don't they shut Ohtani down as a pitcher, and that takes away some juice?
I definitely think that that's on the table for him not to pitch in October. Why would they keep running him out there if they're, mathematically eliminated from the playoffs with 4 starts left? There's just no reason.
Right. And he's already been a risk previously in his career, right? So why go there? Why go there if you're not in it?
And there's no way they're making the playoffs at this point.
No.
It's like 0%.
And like, Also, just to state the obvious, Ohtani's not in a position where he needs to reach an incentive or a number to prove his worth, right? Like, oh, I need to make this next start. Like, no, you're a unicorn. You're a god. You can end your season now and you're going to be fine.
If this was the NBA, he wouldn't play again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They just feel like his foot is sore and he's just got to rest every game. You remember the Malcolm Brogdon thing? Every day he was questionable and he didn't play for like 2 straight months with a
doctor says he needs a backiotomy.
Okay. Well, that's good. Good future talk. What do we like for tonight? Anyone?
I'll dive in.
Yeah,
I wrote up 3 bets for DK Nation. You can find them over there, but I'm taking the under in the Subway Series. You've got the Yankees and the Mets. Jordan Montgomery versus Taiwan Walker. 2 undervalued pitchers, in my opinion. Walker has a 2.55 ERA. I don't think he's that good, but the way he's been pitching recently, his strikeout numbers are way up. He might not be as due for regression as you may think. And Jordan Montgomery has just been a machine this year. 3 earned runs or fewer in all but 2 starts. So I think that 8 runs, you now have to pay minus 120 on that. But I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. The Mets haven't hit outside of 1 inning in their last series. The Mets haven't hit in a couple of weeks now. I like the under here. That's sort of my favorite bet of the day.
Okay. Any thoughts on that, Meiselman?
I think it's a reasonable call. Like, I don't love a lot of totals today. I think if I had to bet the total in that game, I probably do lean under. Like, I think it's relatively fair. But yeah, Stanton going on the IL today, I think is a pretty relevant factor. And that alone has me interested. So I don't know if it probably doesn't make my top 3 or 5 bets, but yeah, like that's definitely a game that I think you would lean under. There were a few where I was sort of leaning over. The Royals Angels total has moved up a decent amount today, but I'm going back to the well on a team I took last night with the Washington Nationals because I just think these Dodgers pitchers are way overrated. And this is, I think, the biggest money line underdog of the day today.
Yep. You are correct. The biggest public side is Houston over the Oakland A's, but from a money line, the actual price, yes, you are correct.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't Tony Gonsolin anymore. And like my main reason for being on Washington yesterday was because Gonsolin is insanely overrated with an ERA that is like 2 full runs below his expectation in terms of underlying numbers. But I just don't really get how the line is still this wide. Like Mitch White also is just not anything special, like league average pitcher. I'm just checking quickly to see if he's got the ERA divide too. I mean, he's 378, like he's whatever. He's like a 4-something ERA pitcher, but Josiah Gray is decent. And I think these offenses are like close enough where, maybe the Dodgers should be 2-1 favorites in this game or 150 or something like that. And we're getting north of plus 200. So this is the one that jumps out to me. Like, I really think a lot of what happens at this time of year in baseball is people will look at the standings for their bets and the trends too, which is a whole other thing, that a rabbit hole that we don't necessarily have to go into. But if you just look at the standings,
you hate trends. We know that's the rabbit
really
hole. You hate trends in
yes.
the NBA. You hate
they
them
don't
all.
mean
That's
anything.
okay.
They never mean anything.
Why don't you just say that?
They never are important. No,
but you say. But you go, oh, I don't want to go into. We don't have to get into that. Just say you hate them.
Okay, yes. Then I can give one statement and we can move on. They're
right. And then you got it off your chest. Didn't that feel good?
We're gonna get along great then, because I love trends. Love them. Especially when we get into football season. I love me a trend.
Yep.
Well, I hate them the most for baseball. So if there's anything, if I can try to like be optimistic about what you said and just take like the most positive spin on it. At least we're not talking about trends for baseball, so it's okay.
Too much variance in baseball to ride.
And it's also the lineups are so different night to night because you get a different starting pitcher every day. Like unless we're talking about the same starter, it's irrelevant. So anyway, like my favorite baseball spot
is the name of the show now called the Square Slate? Like, are we just chirping squares? Is that what we're doing now?
What the squares tend to do is they will bet the good team, like, a playoff caliber team with their number 5 starter against a terrible team with their number 1 or 2 starter.
Yes.
And the
And that's kind of
terrible
what we have
team-
tonight.
Yeah, and Josiah Gray is not like that good or anything, but he's up there in the Nationals
Yeah.
rotation, and Mitch White is the Dodgers' worst starter. And people don't realize how much closer that makes the game. Like it seems intuitive probably to some people, but when you have like the Reds, especially when they get all their guys back from the IL, and then they get someone like Nick Lodolo, who's like an emerging prospect, going against, like a Rays team where it's Luis Patino and it's not one of their top end guys. Like the Reds are actually better than the Rays in that matchup. So this is the sort of stuff I'm looking for. I think it's the thing that it's the thing that the public gets wrong more often than anything else. So I'm not picking the Nationals outright. I just think this line is too high, given that it's a better than usual starter for the Nats and it's a worse than usual starter for the Dodgers. This is obviously not Kershaw. This is obviously not Walker Buehler. Mitch White is fine. So I think there's a few games like that tonight. The other one I would go with is Herman Marquez, probably the Rockies' best starter, against Michael Kopech, who I think is kind of overrated. So those would be my top two money line picks. The Rockies at roughly pick them, and the Nationals getting a little more than 2-1.
Okay. Very good.
And it's sort of for the same reasons.
Anything closer to even money that you're a fan of? Say someone was skeptical of your underdog / plus money love tonight.
Well, the Rockies are like -105, right?
This is true. Yeah.
They're almost a favorite.
So I'll add one. I'll add another close to.
Then we got to go.
Minnesota Twins are -105. They have Dylan Bundy on the mound. Dylan Bundy, it kind of is the opposite of what Meiselman has been talking about with some of these Dodger numbers. Dodger starters, his xERA is about a full run lower than his traditional ERA. So he's a candidate for some progression. The Brewers have an excellent rotation, but Ethan Small is not somebody that you fear. He's spent, most of the year in the minors, and he hasn't been particularly impressive in his limited sample size in the big league. So I think given that this game is essentially a pick 'em, I will side with the proven commodity of Bundy at -105.
Excellent. Gentlemen, that was a good show. We got a lot in there. Meiselman, again, great job on the transition from one Julio to another. I'm very impressed with that.
He's the backup host. When you or Kaufman aren't here, he gets the one chair, baby.
I know.
I've gotten some reps in at this, how to segue properly.
You know what? This is an excellent point, and this is how we'll close. Meiselman, like a year ago, we were still doing Madden, and you would do this once a week, and Chirag would lead, and then you were the co-host. So look at what you've done.
It's been a wild turn. I owe it all to the Boston Celtics.
Okay. All right. That's how we're going to close. Very good. For Matt Lamarca, Matt Meiselman, our great crew behind the scenes, Tom Pike and Eamon. I haven't said his last name in a long time. Is it Convoy?
Convoy. That's not right.
There's definitely an E there, not an O at the end.
I know. Well, I want to say Convoy, but is it Convey? Okay.
It's close.
Why do when I read his name to myself, I go, oh yeah, Eamon Conv, but it's not. Okay. Convey. Very good.
You should change it because it flows better the way you said it.
It's an E though. What is he?
No, he.
Oh, the last name. Okay, all right, very good. Watch the Sweat tomorrow at 11 a.m. and then you'll get the Golf Guys tomorrow at right around this time, 5 o'clock here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.